All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Nick Caruso. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at KnowledgeNet.ai. I'm also one of the co-founders of the company. And we're going to do this a bit of a podcast style today, but joining me today is Matthew Bonasso. Matthew is the Senior SDR at SwarmAI. Or SwarmIO.ai.
SwarmOne AI.
SwarmOne.ai. Thank you, Matthew. So in talking with Matthew, I was actually on the phone with him a couple weeks ago. He's using KnowledgeNet. He's doing some incredible things on LinkedIn. And I thought it'd be great to have kind of a webinar podcast style of how Matthew is using KnowledgeNet. And not just KnowledgeNet, he's also using other tools as well, which we'll go over in our call today. He's using, I think, HubSpot, Apollo, Mistrika, et cetera. Matthew, is that all correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. All right. So for people joining us in the chat room, there is a chat button, I think, on the bottom right. Also joining me is Thierry. Thierry leads our marketing efforts. Thierry will be monitoring the chat, but feel free to jump in, post your chat in the chat comments, and we'll get to them over the course of this call. So Matthew, that was a quick introduction. Do you want to give us a little bit more about your background?
Yeah, sure. I've been an SDR for 3 years. I like to try and stay on top of all the latest tech that can help me, break through the noise. Everyone's using all these different productivity tools and AI, and people's inboxes have been destroyed. And it's very difficult for people like me to break through. And so I try to stay on top of things, and I've been using KnowledgeNet for as long as I've been at Swarm. And yeah, it's been great.
All right, great. So Matthew, what just tell us a little bit about Swarm. What do they do? And I'm also interested, how hard is it to get a person on the phone?
Yeah, so it is. SwarmOne is a revolutionary. I mean, everyone says that, but it's truly one of a kind right now. It's focused around AI training and how companies are actually utilizing GPUs to train their models. And so it's a new way to essentially have multiple GPUs work together seamlessly to train models. And we've removed the aspect of having to rent instances in the cloud, and just giving the power back to the data scientists to just focus on building their model. And our platform abstracts away the complexities of compute.
Great. So new startup, sounds like a very technical sell. Probably hard to find the right person to reach out to. Probably the person you're reaching out to isn't used to dealing with salespeople and inbound calls. So you're navigating through all that. So Matthew, how much time do you spend on LinkedIn? And you're using LinkedIn a lot for your prospecting?
I'm using LinkedIn a lot for my prospecting. So I pretty much start all of my outreach. I run everyone through a pretty basic cadence where I start on LinkedIn with a connection. And what I was doing for the longest time was, the first thing I do is I send that connection, and I include a custom message with that connection request. And generally speaking, I try to put myself in the prospect's shoes and think about what it's like when I receive connection requests and messages, and usually I just pretty much ignore them. And that's really unless I see a message that seems like it's only coming to me, because usually, you assume, this person's using something to automate this process and they didn't look at my account. So I started typing out my own personal messages to each person. I'm only getting through a very small amount per day. And then I guess that's a decent segue into when I started using KnowledgeNet for this purpose, because I had been using it for relationship intelligence and other things for a while. And then when the AI assistant came out, I started using it to quickly automate the personalization of that initial message, so that every person I can go through 3 times, 4 times faster, and they still all get a personalized message that could only have come to them and no one else.
Okay, great. So we're on LinkedIn right now. You're on one of the most famous people in the last couple of years. And I guess you want to give us a demo on what your workflow is. I see that you have Chrome extensions on the right-hand side. So you have an Apollo extension and a KnowledgeNet extension. Mm-hmm. So just walk me through that. So today you're clicking on, I guess, the KnowledgeNet extension, right?
Right. Yeah. So I'm on a profile of someone that I want to reach out to. I'll click on the KnowledgeNet extension, and then I'll immediately go to um, the AI assistant. Now that's unless I see relevant relationships. Obviously, I'm not connected to Jensen Huang
So
personally,
just do me a
but
favor here, Matthew.
but
For the most of the people on I'm seeing on the webinar are familiar with KnowledgeNet, but for those that aren't, on the top right, you're getting Jensen's email address.
yeah.
So as we can see on the left-hand side, you're not connected to Jensen. You don't even have any shared mutual connections with Jensen, but KnowledgeNet is at least giving you their email address, which you could use for an email sequence, but we know that that's probably a low probability that you're going to be able to get them on email, right?
Right.
And then you've got on the map on the right-hand side, you've had no interactions with Jensen, but if you click on that connection path, which is to the left side of that,
Yeah.
we're also seeing, so CEO, very high level, but you have no way to get in contact with them, but you're going to reach out to them via LinkedIn, right?
Right.
So you're going to use our new AI assistant capability to try and craft the best message to get to him, right?
Right. And so, yeah, when I've gone through that and I realize I don't have, thankfully, knowledge that's going to find any warm connections. I don't have any to Jensen. And then I just go straight to the AI assistant and I have created this prompt, this custom prompt that fits into the 300 character limit that LinkedIn imposes on connection messages. And I have it say, I've set it up to say exactly what I want it to say with brevity, etc. And I just click on this prompt here, write a LinkedIn message from a profile. And I have it also set up, which is all configurable on the back end of this, very simple to do. I have it set up to ask me if I have any other personal things that I want to include. And so if I just say no, then it's going to just send, it's just going to use the preset prompt. And then also it's reading his LinkedIn page and it's creating this message, which, I'm Matt from SwarmOne. Leading NVIDIA must make you especially familiar with challenges of scaling AI, training infrastructure efficiently. And so, again, I have it set to say some specific things that I want everyone to understand about SwarmOne, but it's also going deep into the person's LinkedIn profile so that it's highly personalized.
Great. So
And then I'll just copy paste this into a message and into a connection message, and I'm off.
So for the people who are KnowledgeNet users or people who aren't, just how did Matt get to this place? So Matt used KnowledgeNet's new ability to build an AI assistant that's custom trained on SwarmOne and your business, right, Matt?
Right.
So it knows a lot about your business. And then while you're in LinkedIn right now, Matt, and you click that button, what we did is we took information about Jensen, everything that's on that page, everything about SwarmOne, and tried to triangulate what's the best message to try to reach out to Jensen. And as many of you can deduce, we're also leveraging all of this on top of ChatGPT. So from here, Matthew, you can do this. Now, I think, Matthew, when you and I spoke a couple of weeks ago, you were doing this manually through, 20, 30, 50 people a day?
Yeah.
And just manually crafting this. And now this really, really accelerates your process, right?
Yeah, I'm more than twice, 3 times as fast, and get through about 3 times the amount of people, and they're also getting better messages. Because I used to I would go through and have a message set up, and I would just kind of change the first name and do what if it's a specific person that I want to be a little bit more meticulous with, I would go in manually and do this. But now, I at least get a really, really good personalized starting point very quickly with a couple of clicks.
Great. So I see at the bottom there, it says, how does this sound? Would you like any adjustments? So the AI assistant that was built for your company here using KnowledgeNet, you can now also make it interactive, right? So you can give it more input to improve that prompt, right? Or improve the response.
Yeah. Yeah, I could. One thing I do a lot is I just say, I can say something like, pick a specific problem that Jensen faces and focus on it. And I do this a lot, and then it'll go through and say, okay, I'm gonna get more specific, and it gives me, managing AI operations and focusing in on the complexities of handling GPU resources efficiently. which gets a lot more specific. But again, even if I don't like that first message, to your point, I can quickly rework the message without having to leave the page or think very much at all.
That's great. So Matthew, you guys are, again, you're a startup. You're actually a team of one SDR right now, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But as you guys
Everyone's
grow
pitching in.
Well, as you guys grow into a $100 million company or $1 billion company, you're going to have teams of SDRs, right? And the ability to have an assistant that's consistent on message across SDRs. So as you hire more people, this is going to continue. I mean, the value is just going to continue to explode.
Absolutely. And yeah, this makes me super confident for when we start onboarding more SDRs. I think of when I first started at SwarmOne and how, like you said, deeply technical product, it was kind of a lot to learn. But having this assistant, even just to go in and ask a question, because you can go into the regular chat interface in KnowledgeNet and just ask questions, and it's trained on material about the company. I've added our whole website, all the web pages from our website, which our custom assistant is trained on. I've added transcripts from calls that we've had, so it can pull from all these different resources. And again, as we add more people, they can go and have this single source of truth where they can ask nuanced questions and onboard people really quickly. Yeah.
Awesome. So I saw Jack ask a question in our chat. You can do this with a free version of LinkedIn. Matthew, you are also, however, you are paying for the Sales Navigator as well. And why are you using Sales Navigator with KnowledgeNet?
Well, I use it with KnowledgeNet because just there's simple restrictions that LinkedIn has on how much volume you're allowed to do on the free version, and that's the only reason I really use LinkedIn Navigator, so that I can send out a bunch of these, because KnowledgeNet has enabled me to be able to, in a single day, send this many custom messages. I use Navigator just so I can bypass those restrictions on volume of connections and messages. Yeah.
Great. So another question is, what's your output and your performance metrics been on this? So at a minimum, you're able to do 2 to 3 volume that you were doing before. What sort of response rate are you getting by using LinkedIn with custom messaging?
So what I'll say is LinkedIn is, for me, a really a first touch point, where my number one driver of conversions is, and I think for most people today, it is on the phone. But when I connect with people and they've accepted my connection request, and they've read my message, that conversion rate is way higher than the people who I haven't connected with on LinkedIn and I've just called, cold. And so super often the people that I end up booking meetings with, they say that, yes, I did actually see your message. And I believe that's in a huge way attributed to opening a message because you see that it's customized for you.
Yep. Yeah, and we use within our own company here at KnowledgeNet, and we also provide KnowledgeNet as a service for companies. We're finding that prospecting via LinkedIn and LinkedIn InMails is a critical part of an outreach process. And just cold calling doesn't work. Cold calling plus email doesn't work, but starting with a LinkedIn sequence that's complemented to email and maybe phone calls but starting with that LinkedIn process is a critical first step. Mm-hmm. So Matthew, if you could go back to the other prompts that you had created. So for the techies on the call, if you're familiar with ChatGPT and quote unquote prompt engineering, what we're exposing within KnowledgeNet now is really the ability to create custom prompts within the KnowledgeNet UI to accelerate your activities essentially in ChatGPT. So Matthew, can you go over some of these additional prompts that you put together?
Yeah, write an email to a data scientist. It's it's instructed to use more technical language and focus on the daily struggles of a data scientist who we market our platform for. Give me a sales plan goes deep into exactly what SwarmOne does, and what the company that's targeted does, and kind of gives an overview of how to approach selling to that company. It's connected with the internet as well, so it's able to access news articles, anything that's relevant to building a sales process in a more pointed way. And then one of my favorite ones is build a Mistrika sequence. Mistrika is an email platform, an email sequencing platform with a very specific user interface where it allows you to. Do you want me to get into this right now, Nick?
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
So, I mean, it's for the benefit of everybody on the call. Like, what's your tech stack? How do you use it beyond just knowledge?
yeah,
How do they work
yeah,
together, et cetera?
yeah. So, I'm using KnowledgeNet. One of the biggest uses today of KnowledgeNet, along with relationship intelligence, is obviously the AI assistant. And I also use Mistrika, which is an email sequencing platform. And then I also use Apollo, which I use to create smaller email sequences. So Mistrika is for big blasts. Apollo is for the smaller, quick, for example, if I'm targeting a specific company and I have a couple people, lined up in that company and I want to send a quick sequence just to those people. That's what I'll use Apollo for.
So let's just stay in this UI just real quick. A goal. I've been in sales for 20 plus years. When we built KnowledgeNet, it was to really help salespeople make their lives easier. So Matthew, just really quick, if you wanted to get Jensen into HubSpot right now, how would you do it?
I would just click on the HubSpot button, create a contact, and then save.
Good.
And all this information is straight into HubSpot. I use that every single day.
Okay, so we've made it easy to update your CRM system, which as salespeople hate doing. It's a lot of manual process. That's easy to do. We made it easy for you to craft personalized content and emails or in-mail messages into Jensen. And then if you wanted to drop Jensen into an Apollo sequence, you can do it from this UI. Is that how you do it?
Yeah, I would do it right from here. So if I'm on a company, for example, Torque is an example of. So here's my Apollo sequence for Torque. Looks like somebody called me. Here's my Apollo sequence for Torque. I just have 14 people in here from this company, and to do that, I went through using KnowledgeNet, and I went to find contacts. I filtered right up here for the exact people that I wanted, and then I was able to go into each of their accounts here in this window, and then just add them to this Apollo sequence, the specific sequence, and it's on here somewhere. Yeah, here it is. And so quickly I can add them to that sequence, and they'll all get an email.
Excellent. So, so for people who aren't familiar, just the concept, I think in marketing, there's been a lot of marketing blasts and so forth. Something that's relatively more modern in the last 5 years are email sequences where we're dropping them into like an outreach sequence, an Apollo sequence, a Lemlin sequence, whatever, where you're doing a drip campaign as Matthew, right? It goes out as Matthew, I assume.
Yeah.
We probably have multiple different Matthew email addresses and things like that.
Yeah, I have a bunch of Matthew email addresses. I also have some aliases that helps with volume, because we want to follow the restriction. Yeah, it's for deliverability purposes. There's a lot of tricks.
And we internally we use several different tools ourselves, but some of these sequences are also LinkedIn sequences. So the tools that we use internally at KnowledgeNet, we do like a LinkedIn plus email drip sequence campaign, et cetera. Pete, I see you asked a question regarding SalesLoft. We don't have an API integration to SalesLoft, but if you're familiar with Zapier or Make, we can put it into a Zapier workflow, and I'm sure Zapier has a SalesLoft integration. Okay, great. So we talked about the Apollo sequence, Mistrika. Can you share, I think, Matthew, you built, Mistrika to me looked a little bit complicated, but can you share with me how you're using KnowledgeNet to help build?
Yeah.
Mistrika
So
sequence?
Mistrika is a really interesting tool. It's standard email sequencing platform, but it has this extra capability where they call it spin tax, where each phrase here that you see is randomized. So each email is going to be different, because it's going to randomly choose all these phrases that any of them, if you chose them, they would fit together and make a cohesive email. But it randomly selects these different pieces of the email to put in, and each email is different. And you can see there's a very specific way of structuring this spin tax thing. Well, I created a prompt in SwarmOne where it's just called create a Mistrika sequence. And when I click that prompt, I have it already set up here. But when I click that prompt, it says, great, before I proceed, give me the persona and how many emails do you want in the sequence? And I'll just say I want to target a more business-minded person, and I want 3 emails. So business 3. And it's automatically going to create this sequence with the spin tags, all the randomized phrases, and produce all the content for me. At least a really good place to start. And oftentimes this is very, very good starting point, and sometimes I just use it. It's really, really impressive. This was like life changing when I realized I could use this assistant to do this, and that it would do it properly. So yeah, I mean, all the power of ChatGPT personalized for your business is incredible.
Great. So just for people that, we're gushing a lot of knowledge to you right now. So if we back up, before we were in LinkedIn, we were on a website, we were showing the KnowledgeNet Chrome extension or Microsoft Edge extension in order to make a sales rep's life a lot easier. As part of that, we showed you our AI assistant, which showed the ability to craft emails, etc. And that AI assistant is basically ChatGPT, but it's a supercharged ChatGPT that's been trained on Matthew's company's data, their website, case studies, call scripts, etc. So it's a brain that's really smart on SwarmOne. And then Matthew went into our full web interface, our full interface application. If Matthew, you can go back to that. Now that we've got a really, really smart brain that's really smart on SwarmOne, what else can you do? And in this case, SwarmOne uses a email sequencing solution called Mistrika that looks pretty complex to me regarding setting it up. But Matthew pretty easily just told our KnowledgeNet AI assistant, hey, help me write a Mistrika sequence. And now it's accelerating Matthew's time. So I think what's incredible about all this is Matthew, as a senior SDR, super smart guy, but in the past you would have to get marketing involved. You'd have to have different subject matter expertise. Now we're allowing an SDR like Matt to be so much more efficient and productive, and just at the end of the day, it's all about making people more efficient to book more meetings.
Then that's really important, what you just said, because this what we've just created here in a few seconds is something that is supposed to take weeks with multiple people who have different levels of expertise in different areas. Yeah. And here it is. So yeah, this was kind of the light bulb moment, the eureka moment for me, at how much I can deploy this thing to change my workflow.
Yep. And whether that also could be, like, I know you guys are just a startup right now, but I could imagine if you just hit your refresh button here, Matthew, and we can go back to what the full list of prompts you created. So you created these other prompts to help you in your day-to-day process.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can definitely see write a LinkedIn golden post. What is?
So we have, well, we talked to somebody who's kind of doing some consulting for us about LinkedIn presence and social selling and having creating a community on LinkedIn. He gave us this thing. The name of it was some sort of like the golden book of LinkedIn, and it turns out to be really valuable information. And so I used that, and I put it into a prompt in the SwarmOne and the KnowledgeNet assistant, and gave it a few guidelines, and now it can create some starting points for LinkedIn posts that we can post as a company or as individuals about certain topics, and it follows all the rules of the golden book of LinkedIn. So yeah, I mean, there's really no limit to what I can see being able to use this for. Anything that includes content creation. No limits here.
Yeah, that's great. So for people who are on this webinar, if you're a sales coach, if you're a marketing consultant, and so forth, what this is great is providing consistency, best practices, et cetera, for your sales team to do an execution, whether that be, or your marketing team, whether that be writing a post, creating an email, writing an email, responding to an RFP, preparing for a meeting. These are all just fantastic tools that KnowledgeNet can now support. Nash, I think you had a couple questions. One is, if you're a current KnowledgeNet customer, if you don't see the AI Assistant Bus link, this is a new add-on capability that we've re-released this summer. So please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to turn it on for you to experiment with. It is an additional cost uplift, but there's lots of stuff we can do with it. It can really be transformative. And then your other question, Nash, regarding sequences and in-mail and messages. So Matthew has 2 different tools he's using for sequencing. His are both messages, and you can also do LinkedIn in-mails. And so we can, Nash, or anybody else on the call, we'd be happy to share with you, best of breed products. There's a lot of, really great solutions out there. The key where KnowledgeNet fits in is that we can help feed those sequences to make it easy to drop into those sequence systems for you. All right. So, Matthew, anything else you want to, we think you want to impart any wisdom as we end this call?
I guess the big thing here is just the world has changed in a huge way when it comes to cold outbound initiatives and how to get noticed by prospective customers. And I think that a lot of the direction people are going, the big direction people are starting to go is that, oh, the AI is ruining it and it's cluttering everything. But I think that it'd be smart to be on the side of history where you're using AI to enhance those relationships and to enhance personalization and to put more valuable information into people's inboxes that's more personalized, rather than write it off as something that's kind of been a pervasive presence in people's lives, to use it as something that you can enhance get your actual message out to the right people. And so that's what KnowledgeNet's all about, and that's what I've been using it for. So,
all right, that's terrific. Well, yeah. So Matthew, just to wrap that up, as to what my goal and our goal here at KnowledgeNet is to, especially with the AI assistant, we're really smart about your relationships. We're really smart. If you've indexed your emails with our system, we can be really smart about your website, any additional sales playbook that you upload, your case studies, etc. And then if you overlay that with your target customer, now you can provide much more value to the customer to really say, okay, these are how our products and services can help you. So you're not just spamming them, you're providing them much more targeted, personalized outreach. So Matthew, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Just if anybody needs to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
My emails should be somewhere on this event, mattb@swarmone.ai, and I'm also obviously very present on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out.
All right, awesome, great, Matthew. Thank you so much for your time, and everybody else, thank you very much for joining.
Absolutely, thanks a lot, Nick.
All right, thanks. Bye.